I'm Clark Wolf with DC Generic. Good to see you, Gal.
How are you, Clark?
Hi, Clark.
Hi, Pedro. How are you? Hi, Kristen. How are you? So, hi, Patty. It's so great to see you. So, I wanted to start by asking, things are a little different than late spring 2017 when the first movie came out.
Right.
And so I wanted to ask you if this journey, playing this character again, playing Diana again, did it feel at all different for you? Or was it kind of just slipping back into what you had established in the first film?
It was both. The Wonder Woman family is like it's like my second home. So coming back and shooting with the same crew and Patty and the cast, it just felt like coming back home again. On the other hand, I was really looking, if on the first movie we got to witness the born of Wonder Woman, Diana Prince becoming Wonder Woman, I was really eager and passionate about telling the story of Wonder Woman. Okay, now she's in her full powers. She understands the complexities of humankind. Now I want to explore her in a deeper level. And that's what we wanted to do with this movie.
So I wanted to start by asking, so Wonder Woman to me, as a comics nerd, DC fan, movie fan, etc., is not only a character that represents female empowerment, but also relationships between women. And I was really struck by how the relationship between Diana and Barbara plays out in Wonder Woman 84. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about why it was important, or why, if you felt it was important to get that relationship right.
Absolutely. I love this question. It's such an interesting one. So yeah, I think that for me, the thing about it is so often we have all of these complex different kinds of relationships, particularly growing up. And the relationship between Barbara and Diana reminds me a lot of relationships I had when I was young with different friends, when you're all kind of competitive in junior high, but yet you're friends. And so it was really fun to kind of draw upon that, to kind of make this very organic story that where a real friendship evolves into something that could drive both of these people in such different directions. So I loved it. And also it's great working with other women because you know exactly the shorthand you're talking about. What was interesting was I did get questions from some men sometimes where they were saying, shouldn't Barbara be meaner, or shouldn't she be this, or what's motivating her? And I was saying, that's so interesting. I can tell exactly what's motivating her. Trust me. And it's interesting that other women get it completely as well.
Wow, that's a good question. Because we really did want to get it right. I mean, where Barbara goes from where you meet her is so important, because in the very beginning, Diana's like very isolated and she's very lonely and she's not really a part of society, and Barbara's the same, but for different reasons. Barbara's a little more Diana probably gets invited to parties where Barbara probably doesn't. So I think that commonality really brings them together, and you have to see, it was really important for all three of us that you have to see this thing in Barbara that Diana's like that she gravitates towards. And I think it's a little more clear what someone would want to be like Diana Prince in many ways. So yeah, they wanted to show like a real friendship there. And it also makes the arc of like becoming the villain so much more interesting, and like the conflict within Diana of how she feels about her. It just takes it to like another level.
First of all, we don't get to witness many times in the superhero films, a dynamic between two women. And what was interesting here was that they both saw something in each other that they want to have. So that was super interesting for me. And I think that it was also refreshing to see Wonder Woman in, kind of engaging with someone finally, after being alone for 60 something years. Finally, she's engaging. She wants to be close to someone new. And this someone is Cheetah, is Barbara. and it was delightful, and it was delightful to play with Kristen, and I think she's done a magnificent work with her character.
Talk to me about Maxwell Lord. How would you say that he stacks up in the bigger DC rogues gallery?
I'm so in love with the experience of playing Max Lord in Wonder Woman 1984 that I often forget what the context is and what his history is with the comics and everything like that. Because what Patty has created with this movie is so unique, and also in service of the DC universe and Max's place in it. And all I can really say is that it's two things. It's a very kind of nostalgic and earlier version, an earlier understanding of this character, and yet also very directly related to an era that we're capturing in this movie, and an era that we're using to tell a very specific story and to express a very specific danger.
So speaking of, the origins of their relationship, DC Universe Infinite has this amazing collection of DC comics for fans to access. Were there any specific runs or stories that inspired you for this film?
No, there were all of them. I mean, obviously Kingdom Come, like with the incredible armor, and George Perez ends up being all over the place, in all of the version of the Wonder Woman we brought to life. But it really was an amalgam of so many, it's so many little details, because things from Max Lord come from one place and things from Barbara Minerva come from another place. And it was honestly so great to write it with Jeff Johns, because Jeff is like a warehouse of information about everything. And so we're able to then do little Easter eggs all over the place of even things I haven't read. So it was really fun to pull so much from so many places. And I wrote it and Dave Callahan too. I'm just saying, it was fun to write with somebody who's an expert, but the three of us wrote it together and loved it.
In the very beginning, I mean, I was aware of Cheetah, but I didn't know there were like a handful of different versions of her, and who she was, and how she meets Diana, and how she ends up, and how she gets her powers. There's like a few different, there were like a few different ways to go. And when I talked to Patty in the very beginning, I didn't know even like physically what she would look like, because there's so many different versions of her. So ultimately, I took what was written and tried to figure out who she was there. And then Patty just really guided me through the rest of it. I knew signing on to this project that the fans are a really big part of the movie. And I was nervous, and I wanted them to like it, and I wanted to do just to be totally honest, like I know people were surprised when I was cast, and Patty was just like, had this vision from even obviously for a while before I was even involved. And I just wanted to trust that and like do the best job that I could. And I mean, I hope the fans like it. And the cheetah that we ended up with really was like a combination of just Patty and I talking about where she wanted to go and where she started from, and we wanted audiences to feel like they related to her in the beginning.
Yes, well, to that point, so this character, we've seen him in a handful of animated movies and comic books and on television. However, the way that you portray him, I feel like he is so humanized, and yet he is larger than life. It's a very really interesting balance. Can you talk to me a little bit about, your work in terms of making sure to humanize him and to make him feel like a person who has a backstory, and it's not just, this simple black and white, like Wicked Witch of the West type of thing?
Well, you're asking me, the only way to answer it is that is a Patty Jenkins experience. And I, having been familiar with her work and having seen the kinds of wholeness, the kind of wholeness that comes with a character in her films and in her television work. I sort of understood. My initial instinct when I saw what was on the page was that, oh, I understand. I understand this person, which is kind of frightening to admit, to be honest with you. And so it was simply a matter of achieving it, and that I couldn't come close to doing without her. And it was constant permission to risk more and more and to lean more and more into what we were discovering about this character, in his broadness, in his darkness, in his, everything that you've seen, and just to go there and go there and go there and go there. And that was Patty. That is Patty. I am her instrument. I know that it's so kind of, sycophantic, but it's really, really amazing to be able to say this and mean it so completely.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of Maxwell Lord, I had the pleasure to speak with Pedro yesterday, and he was, of course, so effusive about working with you and you empowering him to just go for it. And I wanted to ask about, the idea that Maxwell Lord, as he's presented in this movie, especially in the 1980s, could have seemed like a caricature, but he does have like a very human element while also being very big, which is great. So can you talk to me about like developing that character and handling that character?
Yeah, it's one of the things that I live for in filmmaking. I love bigness and I love big emotions, but filling them in with details that ground them is the fun of the sport. Even when I made Monster, it was kind of the thrill of like sinking into a story and really trying to understand what that would feel like to go through and give empathy to it. And then same thing with Wonder Woman, same thing with Max Lord, who's your villain. I love kind of trying to track all of those things with human dynamics that we all understand. So yeah, it was such a brave performance of Pedro's, because you got to be out there. There's no safety net. He'd never done anything like it before. But he also brought so much humanity to it. I'm so happy he's getting celebrated the way he is, and Kristen too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Patty, thank you so much for chatting. It was lovely to see you, and congratulations on the movie.
Great to see you. Thank you. Nice
Take
to
care.
see you.
This was a lot of fun, and happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Stay safe.
Well, thank you so much, Kristen. Excellent work in the movie. It's really great, and you're wonderful, and I think the fans are going to be very happy.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Gal. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah. Happy holidays. Thank you so much. Be safe.
Bye-bye. Thank you.